or what questions do you have? Okay. Because of my video? Just kidding. Okay, okay, gotcha. So question is about formatting the project or so you're not questions about specific ingredients, but just about what the project is all about. Okay. So it's kind of hard because I don't have Canvas, right? But what I can show you is a couple of things. So in Canvas, there is basically what we're doing, we're going to be costing out 10 recipes. Okay. The rep recipe, which is in that spring 2025 live recorded lecture, that includes the rub recipe. Okay, so that's the first one. There's also a second one that I'm going to post. That's the grilled zucchini. So the vegetable of the entree. So both of those, I have videos that go step by step. Okay. Um, and so you are going to utilize this RSTO worksheet for what? I had it in it's not in the dish room? Okay, hold on one second. Okay, so you are going to utilize um, this worksheet for each recipe. Okay, you're going to utilize this RSTO worksheet. Now, all of this is in the project module in Canvas. Okay, so each one of your recipes is going to have a recipe page, cost out. Okay. Um, So that's where you're going to find the documentation to keep track. Now, this all does need to be typed for the final project. Okay. Um, and I demonstrate, and I'll see what if I can do about finding in my YouTube channel, see if I can find the link for those videos so I can send it to you while Canvas is still down. Okay. Um, so this information is going to be recorded. And then we also have um, the project discussion notes. So in Canvas, there is a discussion thread that's called semester project notes. And that is where you're going to find all this information. So if there's something specific, so for example, the rab recipe, there's multiple chicken breasts on the ingredient page. And so I want you to use the 6-ounce ones that are $1.29 each. So sometimes I will tell you exactly which ingredient to use. Sometimes I need you to think critically to figure out if there's which one of the one or two is best to use. Okay. Um, for anytime that you see a link like this link is basically my citation for this information right here. Okay. So you really don't need to do anything with this link. All the information is right here. Okay. Um, and so notes like when you're making the broccoli soup, you're going to use the total recipe cost from the velouté recipe. That's going to be the line item for the recipe on the soup. Okay, so this is where I'm going to give you a lot of information. The other thing is on that conversion calculator. So the conversion calculator will go from ounces to pounds or not from volume to weight. So teaspoon, tablespoon to ounces or pounds, etc. Sometimes, for the most part, you want it set to generic. Okay. Sometimes you're going to want to change the generic to generic and branded. Okay. And then this allows me to tell you exactly which item I chose to help see that conversion. So let's say I'm gonna make up a number, okay? Let's say we need 6 tablespoons of cumin. You're gonna put in 6 tablespoons of cumin, and then you're gonna convert it to ounces or pounds, okay, using that calculator. I think I have, so you can just scan that QR code, and then this AP to recipe is kind of the form, like the format that I recommend that you use. It helps me if you have questions about um, if you have questions about maybe an ingredient's not adding up correctly. If you send your work to me in this format, it helps me check your steps. Okay, so if we take a look at this worksheet, this is my AP. Okay, this is the cost for one recipe unit right here. And then this is the recipe amount. Okay. And so using this page right here, that kind of gives you an idea of how this lines up. Okay. And so ultimately, what we want to have happen is that these units are going to match. So this is the cost of one recipe unit. And so then if I need how much I need, I'm going to take this, multiply by that, and that's going to give me my ingredient cost. Okay. So let's do an example. Okay. Let's say we're looking at 50 pounds of flour. Okay. That's my AP to recipe. Um, let's say we're making a roux and we only need 3 ounces of flour. Okay. So 3 ounces, purchase costs, let's say it's 25 for 50 pounds. Okay. So my purchase cost is $25. My amount is 50 pounds. Okay. Now, looking at this right here, pounds, it's a horrible color, pounds and ounces, my units don't match. Okay. So I've got to get down the cost of one recipe unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 50 times 16. Why? Gotcha. So what is 50 times 16? Is 800. Okay. So that is equal to 800 ounces. And now I take my $25 cost per, that's the word per, is the division, 800 ounces. 25 divided by 800. Oops. 25 divided by 800. Okay, so I get point, oops, what's that? 0.03125. Okay, so I'm going to evaluate this and look, and there is a third number. It does not matter what that third number is. Okay, this is going to get rounded up to 4 cents per ounce. So it does not matter anything that goes past this. If there's a, the only time we don't round up to the nearest penny is when my answer is exactly 2 decimals. I'm already at the nearest penny. But it doesn't matter if this number was 0.30001, I would still round that up to 4 cents. Okay, because all of these numbers are a part of a penny. That's one area that students really get caught up on, is rounding up the nearest penny. Okay, so that's what I'm going to put right here, is 4 cents per ounce. And now that my units match, I can simply multiply straight across. So those 3 ounces of flour cost me 12 cents. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then you're going to add everything up to get your subtotal. No, this is for the whole recipe. Okay. At the end, we'll talk about what the yield, how we factor in the yield. Yes. Okay. So then we're going to add up our subtotal. So that's basically everything is all the ingredients added up, subtotal. Okay. Our Q factor is 5%, 5% of the subtotal. So basically, what that means is for every dollar of our recipe cost, a nickel or 5 cents is going to go to cover any additional ingredients. So let's say we taste our soup and we realize maybe we need a little bit more salt and pepper. So we're going to add that in. But we don't have to go back and recalculate the whole recipe because we have a 5% Q factor. Right? And so our Q factor is the subtotal times 0.05. Okay. Some chefs range, depending on depending on what the recipe is, anywhere from 3% on up to 5%. Okay. We're good so far on Q factor? Okay. Then the total recipe is going to be our subtotal plus the Q factor. So just a simple addition problem right here. No, you're going to determine, well, in our project, yes. For our project, it's always 5%. But in your own business, you'll determine what that Q factor is. And some processes, like if you're doing research and development, so you're practicing, like you're going to make a recipe and you're going to add to it to develop a brand new recipe, you may even have a higher Q factor because you're going to be pulling ingredients in to cover that cost. And then once you narrow it down to the actual recipe, that's when you have a little bit lower Q factor. Okay. And then the last thing, this is where your portion cost is going to come into play. Okay. So your portion cost is your total divided by 32 servings. And that is because our recipes are all set to 32. Okay. But it's the total cost divided by the yield. That will give you your individual cost. Okay. And then we'll talk about in class tomorrow, we'll talk about what we do with this number. Okay. So every recipe has its own quiz. Okay. And you have 99 attempts per recipe quiz. Okay. So I've intentionally designed it that way because let's say you do a recipe. Okay. I would recommend that you first do the entire recipe and do the quiz all at once. Okay. Then go back to the ingredients that you got incorrect. And you'll see this when you watch the video for the rub recipe. You'll see why I do it this way. When you're focusing on just one ingredient, rather than wasting time and typing in all the answers that you know are correct, when you're only working on one ingredient and you submit it, if your grade is 0, then it's still incorrect. But if your grade's 1, you only answered one question, then you know you got that one right. Okay, does that make sense? And then so you make a note, yep, this was correct. And you move on to the next one that you got wrong. And you work ingredient by ingredient that you got incorrect. And then at the very end, then you go back and do the quiz one last time with all the correct answers and you get a perfect score in the quiz. Okay. So A, it's going to save you time because you don't have to type in all those answers over and over again. But B, it kind of just the efficiency of when you hit submit. If it's a grade of 0, you know it's wrong. If it's a grade of 1, then you know it's right. You don't have to go and do it individually. Okay. So once you have all the quizzes done, we're going to talk about that in class tomorrow about how you finish the project. Okay. The recipes is probably, I would say, 80%. 80 to 90% of the project. So it is a pretty big chunk of your project and it takes a lot of time. Okay. Um, there's 10 recipes. Yeah. Two of them are already done. I don't want to say already done for you, but the rub recipe and the grilled zucchini have videos that go step by step. So those you can watch and do them, as you go to kind of get the format down. And then from there, you'll have 8 more to do on your own. Okay. Um, after today or tomorrow, so tomorrow's class at 2 o'clock, we're going to go over chapter 10, and then we're going to go over how to wrap up the project. Okay. After that, from here until Thanksgiving, we're doing project work days. So basically, what that means is you can either log in on Zoom. Wait, are you in my morning class or are you in morning? Okay, so you already know this. Okay, cool. I also, just as a side note, if you are available on Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. to 3:15 p.m., okay, so let's say you're working on an assignment or an ingredient that's giving you a hard time on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 3:15, I'll be logged into the class Zoom link. Okay. So you can log in. If you log in on Wednesday, um, that can count as your Thursday attendance. Okay. You have to remind me. Sorry, take that back. If you log in on Tuesday, that can count as your Monday attendance. So let's say you miss class on Monday, or let's say you miss class on um, Wednesday, you can log in on Thursday to make that up. Okay. Or if you just have questions and you want to log in, I'll be logged into the class Zoom link during that time. Okay. Um, does that help you? Do you feel a bit more comfortable? Okay. So hopefully, as soon as Canvas gets up and running, we'll have that available so you can go in and look at that. So let me